Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting the like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love guys. Now today's first story comes from Recognition Due 3657 from the Am I the Arsehole Here subreddit, and it says, am I the arsehole here for not wanting to give my DNA in order to try and reconcile with my brother? Throwaway account. I, 35 male, spoke directly to my brother James, 37 male, for the first time in over 15 years. It was completely my fault. I was a jealous and insecure young man who made a selfish choice with no regard to the long-term consequences. What did I do? I hooked up with Alice, 37 female, who was dating my brother at the time. We did it once, and one of the main reasons why it was only once was because we got caught. James was rightfully upset and understandably had an aggressive response. I could have put him in jail, but guilt and our parents' pressure kept me from actually going through with it. I was kicked out and scolded by the family, both extended and immediate, and James cut me out of his life. Over the years, I was able to regain some form of communication with my parents and younger sister, but James still wanted nothing to do with me. I spent years trying to figure out why I did what I did and got therapy. I made a new life for myself while traveling, getting a college-level education and started my own small successful business. I tried the whole romance thing, but have since decided that long-term companionship just wasn't for me and discovered my lack of desire to be a father. I did end up getting the snip, and in 2020 to 2021, I entered an exclusive arrangement with a friend, Tanya, 36 female, and she ended up getting pregnant. Turns out the damn things that I got clipped grew back, and now I have a beautiful daughter, Emily, 4 female, with Tanya. We live about 10 minutes away from each other and have an amazing co-parenting relationship. My parents are aware of Emily and have met her a few times, but have always kept their distance because of James. My sister, on the other hand, has made herself quite familiar with my daughter, and they do have a relationship. I gave up years ago about ever seeing or speaking to James again, so I was surprised when he reached out to me on social media. He asked if Emily was really mine since she was biracial and looked more like her mother. Tanya is African American, and I didn't respond. My parents later reached out to me and asked me to come see them at their house. I came and was surprised to see both James and Alice there waiting for me. Turns out after a while they made up and got married and agreed to just never talk about me. However, for the past few years they've been trying to have kids, and it turns out that James can't have biological kids. Don't know all the details and I didn't ask. Alice and James have fought over this for a while as Alice wants a biochild of her own, but James refuses to claim and raise a kid that's not related to him. My brother told me that he's willing to finally forgive me and accept me back into his life if I make a donation to help him start a family. My parents were completely on board with this and really want me to do this while I'm hesitant. It's true that I won't be responsible for any potential child that may come of this. I just feel too weird about the situation, and honestly, I've learned some things about the kind of adults that James and Alice grew to be, and I don't think they'd make good parents. Am I the arsehole here? ETA, I've been viewing the comments and I just wanted to clarify some things. 1, I don't fault my parents for kicking me out, as I did do a pretty shitty thing and just stayed with a friend. 2, my sister was still dependent on our parents at the time I hooked up with Alice, so I don't fault her for keeping her distance. 3, yes, my sister knew about James and Alice. However, she didn't tell me because I made it clear outside of James dying I didn't want to hear anything from him. Communication on my end was never closed, and if my brother wanted me to know what was going on in his life, he'd let me know. 4, when you hurt someone, you can't decide when they should get over it or how they cope. I agree that James's willingness to forgive Alice, but not me, is a bit strange, but it's not my place to demand he forgive me too. 5. It took a while to realize it, but it was a bit of a golden child syndrome situation with my parents and my brother. He was the first son and excelled academically while I struggled, and my parents were ashamed that I needed help and got into more trouble than James did. I internalized my insecurities, and me being with Alice was a way at how I lashed out. Not an excuse, just an explanation. 6. My brother was the wronged party, not me, so it made sense for our parents to prioritize him. I also think he resents that I'm able to pass along the family name, while he can't and is making my parents choose. 7. They had seen and interacted with my daughter. They even gotten her gifts, but I think they don't do more because they don't want to hurt James. I hope this helps. And ETA 2, yes, I did apologize to my brother in the form of a letter 3 years after the fact at the suggestion of my therapist. I gave it to my mum and asked her to pass it along to my brother. I don't know if he ever read it. Also, I was no contact with my parents for that first year after I was kicked out, and then went low contact with my mum and very low contact with my dad. I'm regular contact with my sister. James gave me a broken nose. He just did it outside and the neighbors called the police. By the time they arrived, our dad had already separated us and I got some ice while James went to cool off at a friend's house. That just sounds so bloody messy, holy moly. Not the arsehole, of course. And you admitted you did something really messed up years ago, owned it, got therapy, took accountability, and tried to build a better life on the back of all that. But what the brother is offering here isn't forgiveness. It's a transaction. Saying, give me your DNA, then I'll forgive you, is absolutely wild. That's not reconciliation. That's someone trying to leverage you. And even if you was, and I'm not saying you should at all, to go down this path, that would be your biological child, raised by your brother and the same woman you betrayed him with. That just, I can't express how incredibly messy that could be. And another red flag to me is that, they've already been fighting about kids for years and your brother already refuses to raise a child that isn't biologically his. That's not screaming a stable environment to me. Bringing a child into that situation just to patch over their issues, it doesn't sound like a good thing, does it? But a commenter says to OP, so I'm guessing James had fertility testing, so they know it's his issue and not Alice's. But this entire thing sounds sketchy as fuck. I don't think I'll be donating your genetic material to your brother. Not the arsehole. OP replies saying, from what I'm able to gather from the sister, Alice and James have been trying for years but couldn't get pregnant. James was blaming it on her, but when she got tested and turned out to be James refused to get tested for a while, and when he finally did, it was revealed that he was the main problem. I don't know all the details, but the main points. A commenter says, I need more context about why you don't think they'd be good parents. OP says, well, for starters, using forgiveness and familial exclusion as a bargaining chip is manipulative. You either forgive the person or you don't, and that's okay. I also don't see how it can be genuine forgiveness. We're Americans living in America, and given James's and Alice's political views, I don't see them providing a healthy environment for a child, especially if the child is born in a certain way. Saltwater Sport says failure rate of a vasectomy is less than 1%. You may want to check your swimmers again. Opie says, yeah, I did after Tanya told me she was pregnant and that I was the only one she was sleeping with. Doctors tested me and that's how I found out. But also did a DNA test. Tanya insisted on it. Commenter says, can you clarify something else for me, please? Are you 35 and James 37 now? Or is that how old you were 15 years ago when you were kicked out by your family after possibly knocking up his girlfriend? Opie says I was 19 going on 20 at the time. And a commenter says, not the arsehole. So I'm currently pregnant. My partner cannot have kids, so we got a sperm donation from his brother. Therefore I feel particularly close to this subject. We did at-home ICI, so I don't know what the process is like through a clinic, but it's not always a one and done process. It took us 3 cycles to conceive, and if they want more kids, you may be signing yourself up for even more requests down the line. If it's not something you want to be a part of, do not sign up for it. It's a lot easier to back out at the front end than midway through the process, and you don't want to regret it, especially if you don't think they will be good parents. Opie says thank you. My brother has made it clear that he's always expected to be a father to a son. 15 years later, and that still hasn't changed since the conversation he said boy and/or son rather than child. I did. So 4 months later, OP comes in with their update and says, hey everyone, it's been a while, and for those that are still interested in an update, I decided to post one when I had the time. For those who are new, the link to the original story will be below. First things first, I ultimately decided that I wasn't going to give my brother and my wife my swimmers. I asked them and my parents to respect my decision, but I knew that wasn't going to happen. As predicted, they hit me with the following. How could you be so selfish? It's just DNA. Not what they actually said. After what you did owe me/him. What I didn't predict was the answer I got as to why James decided to forgive Alice but not me. Turns out James cheated first. Twice. One of the women was someone who Alice had a mean girls rivalry type of relationship with her. A girl who was all too happy to throw it in Alice's face at a public event that she slept with her boyfriend. Alice forgave James the first time, but when he slept with her enemy, she made a conscious effort to get revenge by sleeping with me. I said it before, but I had my own issues by the way my parents raised me and resented James over, so when a pretty girl flung herself at me, I didn't give it too much thought. James caught us because Alice had planned for him to. They did break up, however. After a while, they realized that they still felt something for each other and agreed to just never talk about me. James knew that the only way to keep that agreement was if our parents kept as little contact with me as possible, so he guilt-tripped them into complying, which is why I was always kept at arm's length. Not gonna lie, part of me was pretty pissed off at that, and I confronted them about it. And my parents were right that I didn't have to take Alice's bait. I just didn't like how James, Alice, and I all did selfish and hurtful things, yet I was the only one who suffered the consequences. My parents think Alice and James not being able to have a child is a consequence, and that me giving them my swimmers can help finally heal everyone. I still refused and admitted that I think they'd make terrible parents. I won't go into too much detail because of the rules, but we're Americans, so draw from that what you will. My sister is the only one who's been on my side and called out Alice and James on their crap. There's always been a small part of me that wished I could be forgiven and see my parents on the holidays again. But after all this, I feel like I'm going to be okay with low contact or very low contact. The first commenter says, dude, you can just say sperm like an adult. Opie says, yeah, no, I was just doing a small goof off. Thought it'd be funny if others read it and said, dude, what the fuck, just say sperm. And I was right. It was funny a little. Commenter says, that's seriously messed up, and your parents going along with it makes it worse. Keep your distance and keep hard boundaries. Don't get sucked back into this crap. Opie says James is the golden child. Another commenter says, in my opinion, all three of you are guilty of bad behavior, but Alice is the real villain. She made a concentrated effort to screw you over. She is not a good person. Couldn't she have found anyone but his brother? Shake my head. As for the parents, they can kick rocks. Opie says, given that my brother cheated on her twice and once with a girl she hated who made it a point to use that info to embarrass her in public, I can understand why Alice would want to be vindictive, but I wouldn't say she's worse than James or me. We all did messed up and hurtful things for different reasons. The commenter says, if you ever need another reason to give the sperm, then here you go. If you gave your sperm and it resulted in a child, your brother would forever hate and resent the kid, knowing he's not the biological father. You would be the bio dad, and that alone is enough for him to resent the poor innocent child. Don't give out your sperm. Save that little soul from a terrible family. Actual Hamster says, tell them to let your father contribute his DNA if it's so important to your brother to be related to the child. And Funstorm says, my first thought, does that mean I get to fuck her again? Ridiculously immature and petty on my part. Still, I found myself laughing. Bloody hell, what an incredibly messy situation. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let's move on to another story. Now our next story comes from Work, Life, and it's titled, My 32 Male Co-worker 30 Female recently had her husband's 30 male mother pass away. I know they didn't get along very well. She had a party to celebrate her death. I now lost all respect for her and want to tell her husband what she did. Okay, I'm going to use fake names for this. Jenny is a colleague at the place I work. Mark is her husband. Mark's mother, his mother, Jenny's mother-in-law. So I know Jenny from work. Her husband Mark, in his 30s, is a really nice guy. He's kind of meek and not very outspoken, but he's a nice guy once you get to know him. Very humble and friendly. I've known them both for a few years, and I know Mark almost as well as I know Jenny. It's no secret that Mark's mother and Jenny never got along. She would always complain to us at work about whatever petty fights or arguments they got into. She made his mother seem pretty horrible, but I realized I was only hearing one side of the argument. I really didn't like it, but I ignored it most of the time. It was mostly other people at work, usually the other women, that used to like to hear and talk about that shit. She's been sick for a while now. She's pretty old and she died last week. We've known it was coming for some time, and Mark is absolutely devastated. He's a wreck of a man by what happened. I was there at her funeral and I was there to comfort him. His wife was also seeming very comforting. Well, yesterday after work, Jenny and some of the other girls from work were going to a bar to have drinks and celebrate her death. Jenny seemed quite excited for it and showed no remorse. Now I know they didn't have a good relationship. This is fucking disgusting from my point of view. A woman died. The mother of her husband, whom her husband loved dearly. Her husband, the man whom she supposedly loved dearly. I thought, what the fuck? This is sick, but I didn't say anything. They went off and I was there in the office feeling disgusted. I think it's a vile thing to do. No matter how bad their relationship was in life, you do not celebrate the death of someone your husband loved, especially his mother. It's sickening in all manner of ways. I'm sure Mark doesn't know. He's probably still grieving. He's a wreck when I last saw him. I feel like I should tell him. I have a strong inclination to tell him. I feel he has the right to know. His wife is doing this shit behind his back because she thinks it won't affect him, but it's pretty gross in my opinion. I know it'll probably make him feel worse. I know it'll probably destroy their marriage and I will be responsible. But I feel he has the right to know. He's my friend and I care about him and he has a right to know. I'm 90% positive now that I want to tell him, but I'm not really sure. As I said, I'm well aware of the repercussions that I may be destroying a marriage with 2 kids, as well as probably destroying any friendship I have with Jenny. What should I do? Am I right in telling him or should I just hold my mouth? I feel he has a right to know. My strong inclination is to tell him. Opie also says at the end of this post, guys, please, I'm not gay for Mark. Stop suggesting that I am. But the first commenter says, that's really none of your business to cause a problem in their relationship just because someone's reaction to a death offended you. Dude's already hurting. He doesn't need to be fighting with his wife too. She gets to have her own feelings and express them in a way that didn't involve the husband. Opie says if I was him, I'd want to know. Casual Bitchface says she's entitled to have her own feelings about her mother-in-law's death, and it seems like she's dealing with it appropriately while still being there for her husband. Why'd you need to butt into their relationship? Opie says I think it's extremely inappropriate, rude and insensitive to celebrate the death of a mother of someone you supposedly love. To me it feels like she has no respect for her husband. Her husband is also a friend of mine, and to tell the truth, I've lost all respect for her. Toast says you're well within your rights to stop being friends with her, but you are 200% wrong to involve yourself in her marriage. You have no idea why she hated her mother-in-law, and it's not your place as the morality police to butt into their personal business. Another commenter says, stay out of it. You have no idea what was really going on in that relationship, and no right to butt in. Footy PJ says, as someone who will probably respond similarly when my ex-mother-in-law passes, this is really your best option. My relationship with my ex-mom was so toxic that I've had multiple dreams I shot her. We were still together. I'd be absolutely elated I didn't have to deal with her anymore. Not that we're not, it would be like celebrating a closed chapter of my life. She caused me so much pain I was in tears nearly daily for years. My ex and I joked about my throwing a Ding Dong the Wicked Witch is Dead party after her passing. He said he didn't want to be a part of it, but didn't begrudge me that either. Jenny has taken an evening to let all the frustrations about her mother-in-law to go, without involving her husband. She's allowing him his grief and dealing with her own feelings about her mother-in-law's passing. Mark surely knows about the relational struggles Jenny and his mum had. Leave it be. So OP comes in with her update and says, okay, well, just to clear a few things up first. 1, I'm a male. A lot of you seem to have trouble comprehending that in the comments. 2, no, I'm not gay for Mark. I'm a straight male. 3, the overwhelming number of comments were defending Jenny's atrocious actions, and I'd be lying if I said those overwhelming numbers of comments didn't somewhat influence my actions and make me reconsider. 4, I did get a bunch of PMs from guys saying that they knew if they commented in the thread they'd get downvoted, but if they were Mark, they'd want to know. 5, I know Mark well. A lot of you were saying I didn't know him. I know him well. I know him through Jenny. He is my friend. Well, I invited Mark over to my house. I know he's been in a terrible mood lately, so I invited him over to relax. We had a few beers, talked things out. I wanted to tell him. I was going to tell him. But this poor guy, he was in such a mess. He was so visibly upset and miserable, I couldn't bring myself to add another layer to his burdens. I didn't do it to protect Jenny. I think she's a scumbag piece of shit for celebrating the death of his mother. But I did it because I didn't want to add to his grief. So no, I didn't tell him his wife had celebrated the death of his own beloved mother while she was grieving. Instead, we talked about many other things, about life, family, whatever. I said it seems like Jenny's been very supportive to him. He laughed and started telling me the truth of the situation. He said he knows she and his mother always hated each other, and she's been anything but empathetic except on a superficial level. He said at times he felt she can barely hide her glee. I said that's terrible, but didn't really add anything. He said they've been fighting since his mother's death, and it's been getting worse, and part of it stems from what he feels is her joy at it. Apparently the fighting is pretty bad, and it's caused a real strain in their marriage. I suggested marriage counseling. He balked at the idea, and I told him if he ever wanted a friend to talk to, I'm here. I knew if I say anything, it should be at this point, but I didn't. He tells me that he heard from one of the other male workers at our place, who's also a friend of his, that Jenny was acting gleeful around the office and telling other girls about his mother's death. He asked me if it was true. I said yeah. I said I don't really pay attention to too much that goes around at work and don't engage in gossip like the women do, so I could just have misheard. He stayed a bit further at my place relaxing, then went home. Next morning at work, Jenny came in in obviously sour mood. She walked up to my cubicle and was clearly angry. She asked me, "What did you talk about with my husband yesterday?" I told her it was between me and him. She said something like, "Oh, he's my husband, stay away." I don't remember what the words were exactly. I then told her I know that she went out to the bar to celebrate the death of her husband's mother, and I thought it was disgusting and I'd lost all respect for her. I then told her to go away and not to bother me because I had work to do. She left in a bad mood and that was the end of that. Hope I don't hear from her again. Honestly lost all respect for her. I think she's a bad person. If her marriage does fail for whatever reason, it would be her fault for being such a callous bitch and celebrating the death of her husband's mother. I can't wrap my head around what kind of evil person would do that. The commenter asks OP, "Is Jenny well liked in the office? Does she rank higher than you?" OP says she doesn't rank higher than me. Yeah, she's well liked. She's one of the more social people at work. I don't socialize that much, so I don't care. I don't see why it matters. This isn't high school. Commenter replies saying, "I have to be honest, OP. I think you're in trouble here. Networking is a huge function of success in a professional setting. Right now, she'll be telling anyone who will listen who tried to wreck her marriage. If she's well liked, they'll believe her. Personally, I would monitor the situation carefully and update my resume." Invalid Object says, "Nope, I read the fucking post properly. You're still a complete arsehole. You sat down and talked to him about it. You confirmed the situation, and the cardinal sin is giving a fuck when it's not your turn to give a fuck. You don't know shit about the Jenny/mother-in-law dynamic, and it's not your place to make judgments about her behavior." OP says, "He's my friend. His mother died. Of course I sit down to him and be supportive, you shit stain of a human being. It's the least a friend can do during what's probably one of the most difficult periods in his life. Why don't you understand that? I can't believe people like you even exist." And Jester Killer says, "Well OP, this thread sure makes you appear to be a stick-your-nose-in-it, gossip-mongering busybody dick. Looking at your previous thread, I see that pretty much everyone advised you to stay out of it, and you declined to do so, and have some sense of moralistic outrage. You may have just helped ruin a relationship. You've likely severely damaged your reputation in the company you're working for, and as far as I can tell, you haven't improved anything for anyone. Please learn from this experience." And the top commenter on this one said, "I didn't comment on your last thread because I didn't feel strongly either way. That being said, I do believe that if Jenny wanted her feelings regarding mother-in-law's death to remain private, then she should have been the one to keep them private. I do not blame you one bit for losing respect for her, and the only reason I would advise against telling her husband is because it would add to his grief, and he's a friend of yours. Maybe there will be a better time and place for him to find out about this, but I wouldn't be surprised if he finds out on his own. She's not exactly keeping it close that she's partying it up because her mother-in-law died. It's incredibly disrespectful." And there were some people that was backing up OP saying, yeah, they think it's absolutely disrespectful and, lack of empathy and all that kind of stuff. Other people saying that he still couldn't help himself but butt in and it was inappropriate to do so. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. Now, just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being here. Truly, it's absolutely amazing. And hopefully, I'm going to see you in the next one. Take care and much love.